It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back into another episode of Australia's largest real estate podcast. Yes, over 1,500 property jam-packed episodes on what is happening around the country. And for 2025, there has been plenty in development, which is set to continue. It's like a soap, isn't it? Into next year. Shopping madness today, particularly today, it's going to peak. The silly Christmas spending continues as we get sucked in down the rabbit hole of spending. Do you feel that? You know, the whole commercialisation of Christmas is nuts to begin with, but somehow we manage to buy into it every year. What gets me is adults stressing about other adults and the presents that they're buying for them, worrying if they are going to like their present. And am I spending as much as they're spending on me? What if they don't like it? Tell you what, who cares? Don't worry about it. You buy it. If they don't like it, don't stress over it. You know, you've done the action, you've done the good deed. If they don't like it, not your problem. And then you've got some people who have just surrendered to Christmas in a catatonic state. You know, it doesn't make any sense. We've weaved and bobbed through 2025 with the cost of living. Somehow you have managed to pay the mortgage. That's the first thing. Well done you. Or you've paid the rent. You've got to buy the food. You've managed to do that. Keep yourself alive. And you've also paid for the utilities. And then at the end of the year, we get this, Christmas. In my family, fortunately enough, we don't have any presents for the adults. That's easy. And all my nieces, this is the best part this year, all of my nieces have grown, all 5 of them, so they now fall into this rule. No present for adults. Yes, I do like a nice, easy Christmas. Well, it's a Saturday, December the 20th. And coming up, if you are looking at buying an apartment or a unit, you've got to start thinking about Strata. That's what we're going to be talking about this morning. We highlighted this with a real live case situation where somebody bought an apartment above a gym. Now, they didn't do any due diligence, and they had the constant banging of weights hitting the floor, and it was affecting their mental health. The exhaustion was kicking in. They said that they were having difficulty concentrating at work. And, you know, if that continues, you end up losing your job. You then don't have income. Then you've got to sell your apartment, maybe lose money. You know, this is a real nightmare. So we're going to dive into this very thing of doing due diligence when it comes to buying apartments after this.
You're listening to the Saturday Property Market Update.
Let's catch up with Karen Stiles, who is joining us this morning. She's the Policy Director from the Owners Corporation Network. And good morning to you, Karen. Welcome into the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Thanks, Craig. Great to be with you.
Now, this is a scary aspect, isn't it? And not just a one-off here. You are quoted as saying that it's an issue happening all over Sydney, and you think that gyms are incompatible with residential living.
Yes, Craig. Well, as you can see from the recent media coverage, it really can be very detrimental to people's mental health and well-being.
Yeah, in this particular case, a woman that has bought, they don't necessarily hear the gym in action. They go and do an open, they don't hear any noise. They've bought the apartment. I mean, this has got to be a nightmare. Your very first night, you know, you're so happy to move into your new digs, your new apartment. You jump into bed and go, whoa, this is the first night, here we go. And next thing, bang.
Oh, absolutely. You know, people can be very quick to choose, you know, one of the biggest assets often of their life. But of course, you're focused on finding a fabulous new home, and you're looking around, isn't the view gorgeous? Oh God, there's cafes downstairs, you know, lock up and leave. It's going to be wonderful. So you're not necessarily focused on the noise if it's going, or alternatively, the real estate agents have very cleverly organised the open time to be when the gym's closed or at its quietest because, something else is going on. So you may not even be aware that this is going to be an issue when you finally move in, are woken up at 6 a.m. to the sound of heavy weights being dropped to the floor.
Oh, so you're saying that the real estate agents are cunning with regard to this. I've got to sort of talk and speak up for these real estate agents because they will be listening and going, hang on, that's not me. I guess that can happen with some real estate agents, possibly that they do that. But here's the other rub of the green, and that is you buy your apartment and there is no gym below and it's perfect. And then 12 months later, a gym operator goes in there. And this is really the danger, isn't it? Because you just don't know what is going to develop below you.
Well, that's right. It could be a liquor store. It could be a tobacco store. We've had members come onto the forum to say that suddenly they can't get insurance coverage for the building because they've got a particular new commercial tenant downstairs. Now, they couldn't stop them. It's a perfectly legal business, but it's kind of known for bringing other issues into the area. So the insurers won't have a bar of it. The residential owners, they're caught in a bit of a trap with mixed-use buildings, to be honest.
Yeah, and if you have a look at the strata management's role in all of this, in cases like this, what responsibility does strata management have in balancing the interest? And this is the big one, I feel, the interests of commercial and residential tenants. Should buyers look closely at how proactive their building strata is before purchasing? Well, that's really a bit of a given. And the other part of that, with my question to you, is there a bit of bias towards commercial, sort of leaving the residential part hanging?
Craig, you've hit the nail on the head. Wherever you've got mixed-use buildings, and particularly if you've got a building management committee, which isn't governed by strata law, you've got the voting and the power weighted with the commercial against the residential owners. They're normally outvoted, so the commercial have the power. The power of an owners' corporation actually lies with the strata committee. The strata manager is there as a service provider to provide, administration and guidance on governance. But they're not the decision makers, or they shouldn't be, in a well-managed scheme. So they should be taking instructions from an active committee. But that committee may have its hands tied by the strata management statement for that building, which says that they have to have 100% approval to make any changes, or it's a council-approved business that's in there, so they can't actually challenge that, but then they're stuck without insurance, for example. So there's lots for buyers to beware.
Yeah, and I just get the sense that there's a whole bunch of buyers listening to this podcast across Australia. They've gone in, they've had a look at an apartment, they love what they see, they're listening to the podcast and saying, hang on, no, wait a minute, we haven't really done full due diligence on what is below. It's one of those capture-all moments. You've got to drill down, go below where you're buying, check all of that out. I mean, there is just so many things to think about that people often just fall in love with the apartment. They love it and they get caught out.
It's a bit like getting married, Craig. You marry the person you love, but then there's a family that comes with them.
Yes, that's true. Now, we should look at some legal recourse for noise issues. So what are the legal options homeowners have got when noise from commercial properties and mixed-use developments become unbearable like this situation? Have there been successful cases where residents have resolved those disputes?
I'm not actually aware of any cases there. I know that as this building that you read about, they've had acoustic reporting and, they've looked at the vibrations, had all that measured, and they've put some measures in place to reduce the impact on the residents above. But you can imagine if you're the floor above the gym, there's going to be music, there's going to be all sorts of things. They could perhaps curtail the hours, so that a bit like renovation works, they don't start before 7 a.m. and they finish at 5. But I'm not sure if they'd get away with that with a commercial gym, because obviously people like to use those out of hours. It would start, I guess, with their bylaws. They could look at that to try and prevent unsuitable commercial usage going forward. But I can remember a very high-end building at Milson's Point having terrible trouble some years ago. A student education provider wanted to have 3 8-hour rosters of students coming through, English for foreign students. And they were going to be there 24 hours a day, in 8-hour shifts, coming and going, chatting, smoking potentially. The way the development had been set out, the commercial actually spilled into the residential sector, which was supposedly security, except that all of these, hundreds of students were going to be rolling through there 24 hours a day, and they couldn't actually separate the two uses. So that was quite a long stoush, I think, with council trying to work out how to resolve that. In the end, COVID took care of it because we weren't getting any international students.
I note from this particular problem that, according to the gym, they're doing everything legally responsible and meeting the code. Is that correct?
I've only read the same story, but yes, that's exactly what they're saying, and that's quite possible. But that doesn't mean that it's not impacting people adversely, and you can't get away from it. There'd be a sense of dread, I would think, all the time. When's the next thud? As she said, they thought a bomb had gone off and called the police at one stage with the noise.
Yes, a bomb-like noise going off, which is startling you. You're 10 stories high, you think something's happening to your building, only to discover that it's a gym. And I guess the irony, if I can finish up on this note, is that there will be people that have bought into a high-rise apartment block with the very notion of, this is great, it's got a gym in it, fantastic, we'll be able to use the gym after work, we don't have to go out. And then, of course, all the problems sort of start from there. Hey, Karen, great issue to discuss with you. I hope the woman involved is able to get it resolved, because there's no doubt that it definitely has a negative and constant effect on somebody's health. And thank you so much for coming on the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Thanks, Craig. Great to be with you.
Every week, real estate transactions take place as the market shifts month by month. And every day, we keep you better informed and updated on the Real Estate Podcast.
And right now, it's time for another 30-second property tip, and we're giving you some advice this morning around your mortgage with Christopher there in Elstonwick in Melbourne. And good morning to you, Christopher. What have you got for us this morning?
Yeah, good morning, Craig. Look, a couple of easy tips we like to help all of our clients with is that banks love to see genuine savings. So don't let your savings amount just build up in your main day-to-day transaction account. Open a separate account, have a regular savings amount going into that account every week or every fortnight or every month, so that you're not touching that and you're building up a savings buffer in no time at all.
Sometimes the basic information seems to be the ones that commonly get missed and thought of.
Yeah, look, that's right. And look, on top of the savings focus, also just having a look at your credit file. Making sure that what's on your credit file is what you expect to see and that your credit score is healthy, and really giving that a good review.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.